Welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or A Hobbit's Reading List, and that was Reese. And I didn't film an intro for this vlog last Monday, or March 20th. Everyone say hi to Reese. Let's just go ahead and get into the week. Good morning. It is Wednesday. I am apparently not great at filming right after vacation just because I'm so tired. On Monday, I read another like 60 pages of The Body Keeps the Score. I do think it's very informative, well-researched, presented decently well. I do, however, have some issues with the writing style. Not that there's anything wrong with like the grammar or anything, but it's more like the descriptions of the trauma of like the example, people is fairly graphic, to where it could be re-triggering to people reading it if they've gone through a similar situation, or if they have a particularly good imagination, they could experience secondary trauma. So it's something where I'm like, okay, that's an interesting choice considering you're writing about trauma, but you're writing it so descriptive that it could trigger someone without trigger warnings. So it's a little weird. And I've talked to someone about it, and they kind of implied, they're like, oh yeah, just wait until you get to when he's talking about like females who have been groomed. I guess he describes them in a very like not great way. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading it because I do think it's informative, but if the writing gets much like grosser, I might just DNF, because I've already suffered the consequence for not reading my March TBR, so might as well. But we'll see. I'll give another shot today. I also went ahead and started listening to Sense and Sensibility, because that is on my April TBR, and if you haven't seen, that was my cat. If you haven't seen my April TBR video, it should be up by now, so go check it out. But I got Sense and Sensibility, and so I started listening to the audiobook for that yesterday. I only listened to about an hour, but I like it so far. I think it does a good job sort of explaining the personality differences between Eleanor and Marianne. Their sister-in-law sounds like a complete... yeah, I like it so far. I'm gonna listen to, I drive to work today, so I'm gonna listen to another 2 hours, and hopefully I'll get into more of like the plot. I know I've met one of the love interests already, Edward. I feel so bad for the man, because like he's described as not handsome and like not exciting, and I'm just like, so he's either average looking or ugly and boring. Poor guy. Like I feel bad for him, because he seems, I mean, in the couple chapters that he was in, he seems caring, which is good. But I know he'll pop up later in the novel. Right now I just got to the part where they went to Devonshire. Yes. And so they just moved, so I'm not very far in, but looking forward to reading more later. And now I'm just gonna ask Siri what I need to do for my to-do list. I've been putting off writing because I'm not in a writing mood, but I need to write. So I'm probably gonna end up doing that. So I didn't read anything yesterday. It was on my to-do list. It wasn't coming up at all. And then gymnastics regionals were in the afternoon, so I was watching that, and yeah. But Wednesday I read a crap ton because reading was all that was coming up on my to-do list. So I read about, I want to say like 80 pages of The Body Keeps the Score, so I'm about halfway through now. And it's fine. You know, it's it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know who this was written for, because a lot of it is like giving very basic trauma education. And so it's like, okay, so was this written for like as a self-help book? But then within that very basic trauma education is a lot of like science and stats, and like, which is still useful for, you know, anyone, but it gets like really into sciencey stuff, and so it's a little hard to digest sometimes. And so it's like, so is this written for like professionals? But it hasn't gotten into any like treatment or anything. And so it's like, I don't know who it's written for. He makes weird comments when talking about patients, and also it feels like, I don't know the nice term for this, it feels like gratuitous trauma watching. I don't want to say the actual like term that people use. It starts with a P. But yeah, so it's like some of the trauma descriptions are like pretty graphic and could be re-triggering to people. So it's an interesting approach. But like, it is informative, and the science stuff is interesting, and I'm hoping the treatment options are more helpful than just like exercise and be mindful. Like, I know that mindfulness is really important for trauma, but I would hope there'd be more. But so we'll see. So that is, you know, The Body Keeps the Score. I'm about halfway through. I don't think I'll finish it today. I have a lot of like other stuff that I have to do, but I'm hoping early next week, if not this weekend. It'd be nice to finish it this weekend, but we'll see. The other things, I listened to another hour-ish of Sensibility, so I'm about like 20% through. They have moved. I don't know if they had last time I filmed a clip. So they moved there, and they're, you know, meeting people. They've met, Marianne has met Mr. Willoughby. And I'm getting Mr. Wickham vibes from him. And then I spoiled myself. So so I know he's not, you know, like the love interest, but I feel bad for the two characters that I know are actually the love interest, because they're not described very well. But I think the book is predominantly focusing on the sister relationship anyway, I think. I'm only 20% in, so if I'm wrong, like, correct me. But I think it's interesting. I think I'm enjoying it more than I liked Persuasion at 20%, because it's actually focusing on the characters that the story is about. Whereas Persuasion, I felt like at the beginning was focusing on everyone else except Anne. And I recognize that, like, that was probably intentional to highlight, like, how little Anne, like, had confidence in herself, and how little she stepped into situations and made them about herself, and I get that that was probably a choice, but it was also very annoying. So I'm very glad that we're not having that issue with Sense and Sensibility. So that's sort of the plan. I won't, like, at this pace, I won't finish it this week. I'll finish it next week. And then I'll move on to one of the other audiobooks that I have on my list. So I'm glad that I started the April TBR like a little bit early, even though I've only listened to 2 hours. So it really wasn't that much of a head start, but it's something. So yeah, so that's my plan. And I'm going to get back to doing the other things that have come up on my to-do list. Good morning. It's Saturday. I realized I haven't filmed that much this week. I think I'm still recovering from going to New York last week. I have been reading. Well, I've been listening. I haven't picked up The Body Keeps the Score because last night we went to our friend's house for a basketball game, and of course, like, I would normally read during that, but it was also the NCAA women's gymnastics regionals again last night, so I watched those two meets. So not a lot of reading done, but I did listen to about 2.5 more hours of Sense and Sensibility because I hit traffic on my way home. So I'm about, like, I think it's like 41%. So I'm doing pretty well with that. I'm trying to remember the last thing that happened. Oh, Eleanor and Marianne went to London with Mrs. Jennings, and Marianne is hopeful about seeing Willoughby again, but, like, I don't think she's going to enjoy it when that finally happens, and she's suffering a slew of disappointments because it hasn't happened yet, and she keeps getting her hopes up. So I'm feeling really bad for Marianne. I'm enjoying it. I'm very confused about Eleanor and Edward because something was revealed. I'm not going to say what, but people who have read the book before me probably can guess what I'm referring to. We found out something, and that something is confusing. And I don't know what is the truth, what is going to happen, if that is the truth. Who knows? So I'll listen to more tomorrow. I'm going to try to read more of The Body Keeps the Score today because I would like to finish it so that I can pick up Matzo Match. I have a week, right? Like, I have the week leading up to Passover and then the week of Passover to read it, but I want to read it as quickly as possible because I want to move on to other books. So I'm really trying to do better in April. March was just really slumpy and it made me feel bad. And the fact that, like, this vlog, which will be the last week of March, was so small also makes me feel bad. And that's just guilt that I'm putting on myself for no reason because that's who I am, and anxiety. So that's about it. I'm going to try to read more today, but it's the regional finals today and tomorrow, so I really don't know how much reading I'll be getting done. Plus I have other stuff I need to do. So let's just cut to some B-roll. Okay, so I have to film a little clip because I'm frustrated by this book. Okay, so I don't like his tone. I don't like the author's tone. The chapter I just read was about how like childhood can lead to, PTSD symptoms through like chronic childhood neglect and abuse and everything like that. And that's all well and good. Like, that makes sense. But his tone in this chapter, he comes off as simultaneously like braggy about all the different like research he's done and all his connections and all the people he knows, and then also like a petulant little brat because the diagnosis that him and some of his pals or whatever came up with didn't make it into the DSM-5, which like I get is frustrating because the diagnosis makes a lot of sense. PTSD symptoms don't necessarily apply to the behavioral and relational issues that children who grew up in a neglectful or abusive house like will have. Those symptoms don't necessarily match, so PTSD isn't an appropriate diagnosis for them, and so they came up with a diagnosis and the symptoms and everything that matched. That's fine, but the way he's writing about it, like instead of just being like, they didn't decide to include our diagnosis and that's wrong and it's screwing over millions of people and children that could benefit from this diagnosis because they'll get appropriate care. Like, that's fine. What he's doing is like, they didn't put my diagnosis in the DSM, so the entire DSM is stupid. And like, is the DSM perfect? No. Like, not even at all. Like, not even a little bit. But just as a way, he's like, it's stupid. It only applies to behavioral things. It only scratches the surface. There's nothing relational. Like, all that is accurate, but he sounds like such a brat in this last chapter. So, I just want to be done with this book. The trauma stuff is interesting. We've yet to get to any treatment, which is starting to bother me. I'm halfway through the book, and there's been nothing about treatment besides the fact that he's like, I'll get how to treat this later, or I'll get how to deal with this as, a person who's experienced trauma later in the book. And I'm like, or you could just, slide it in. Like, so that's frustrating. I don't know if I will read more tonight. It just depends. I have a lot of stuff I have to do. So I'm going to pause here. And I'm back. I'm actually going to wrap this vlog up. I haven't read any more, and I just tried editing the podcast, and my eyes were like, nope. For whatever reason, my eyes are just completely shot by Sundays. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this vlog here. I know it was a really short one. I feel bad about that. I think I was just actually still recovering from New York, and next week's vlog should be definitely longer, hopefully with different books. I really want to get through, this one, because I'm over it. I forgot to mention, I did listen to another hour of Sense and Sensibility this morning. The biggest update is like, Willoughby sucks. That's about it. I don't have any more like details about it. Willoughby, led Marianne on, but we don't really have any more information about his whole deal. Like, we have explanation, but like not explanation of why he put himself in that situation, aka why he's such a jerk. Hopefully I will get more information about that next time I pick up Sense and Sensibility, which should be Tuesday. However, so that's what I have. Again, sorry this wasn't super long, but comment if you've read either of these books especially if you think I should, like, DNF, the body keeps a score, because I just really need, like, one person to give me permission, and then I'll drop it. Like the video, subscribe, and I will catch you guys next week. Bye!